Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be doing an installment of the weekly meta breakdown for the historic best of 3 format. We're going to be kind of doing a broad look at some of the decks that are doing well across both Untapped GG, what you see on the screen, as well as the community at large. It's towards the end of the month, so we've accumulated a lot of data. There was also the qualifier weekend that happened, or the Mythic qualifier this past couple weeks. That was historic best of 3. I will preface the best of 3 data from Untapped since the new set is a little lacking, so I did do a little bit of digging to find some new stuff. There's a lot of cards in historic. It usually takes a while to kind of evolve some of the decks themselves, but we'll take a look and go through here. I'll paste all the deck lists, timestamp them. I'll get good to go. Folks who are looking for Explore, I mentioned in the other video, I'm not going to be doing Explore this week. There is a ban and restricted and unbanned announcement that is coming on Monday for the Pioneer and Explore format. If you're interested in potentially what could be unbanned, I did a whole video talking about every card that's currently on the Pioneer deck ban list. It's in the video description that you can check out. But we're going to be talking about historic best of 3 today. So we're going to start off with popularity of the day, and usually we get a good snapshot, but I think this is largely kind of skewed right now. They're just not a huge amount of data. So like Mono Green Devotion, Izzet Wizards, both at like 22%, Azorius at like 19%, and then Golgari Yawgmoth. I think Devotion's in a really rough spot right now. There's a lot of combo decks in Historic, and while you do have Karn to find some answers, a lot of the decks are like turn 3, which could be too slow for you to stop or interrupt the combo, discover combos, Geist Combos, stuff like that nature. So not like a huge amount of data that's had for this particular format. Even looking like I did November 23rd through today the 30th, only 3,200 games of historic best of 3 played. I can't even select, like I have to do the roundabout way to get the data, but there's not a huge amount of games played. So if we were looking at Untapped, we're going to start off with Izzet Wizards, the highest win rate deck at 71%. This is probably the most consistent and best deck of the format. You have to kind of consider it when playing the games. It's the keep them honest deck, you know? If you stumble, they're going to kill you and kill you very fast. Wizards of like Symmetry Sage, the buff. You have Soulscar Mage, Dreadhorde Arcanist, Balmor. All get bigger through casting spells. You have card advantage and expressive iteration. Full playset of Flame of Anor for card advantage, dealing 5 and blowing up artifacts. Haste out of nowhere with Reckless Charge. We're seeing some copies of Strangle in the main to help with Dimir. Just giving you another answer on turn 1. Reckless Rage in there as well. Giganta Companion. You got Graveyard Hate, Activated Ability Hate, some more removal, counters, Aether Gust. Games that are going long or have more interaction. You have Snapcaster Mage, Anti-Graveyard Hate, and then Brotherhood's End is very good against like the Artifact Affinity style decks. Then we have 4-color Geist, 70% win rate, 57%. So this is a very janky kind of deck. Kind of whole concept. You mulligan until you have a leyline in your hand, doesn't matter which one. 1 land, and then Fragment Reality. Turn 0, you play a leyline. You Fragment Reality, one of your leylines, it always gets Geist to St. Traft into play. Then you throw some auras on it, attack in, and kind of kill your opponent that way there. The sideboard here is truly a thing of art. They went with Concealed Courtyard, Cave of Koilos, and then just playing more lands, Innocent Blood for the Mirror, Curse of Silence for any sort of like Edict style effects you can name. Seen like Spell Pierce maybe come in. You could do, well, you can't actually do Portable Hole because this would find oh no, you could do Portable Hole. Exile target non-token, artifact, creature, enchantment. His control puts a random creature. So you could do Portable Hole if you want for like the Wizards matchup. You can do Fading Hope, just things to kind of get rid of your opponent's blockers, stuff of that nature. But the sideboard, this is very much, when you sign up for this deck, you're playing this deck. And the sideboard's not really a consideration there. So the last deck from Untapped is actually Simic Merfolk, showing at 61%. This list is a little bit, I don't want to even say dated, but like not taking into account, like they're still using Secluded Courtyard over Cavern of Souls. They do have Sinnoh Scout, but I did find another list here. This one's 25 and 13, 65% win rate. So this is from MTG Decks, Jeff Coder. So we have the Sinnoh Scout in here, Shoreline Scout, Master Pearl Trident, Merfolk Mistbinder. We have the Tricksters. The Hex Catcher is really nice. It's just a disruption effect. Lets you have some counters. Interesting, only one copy of Sylvian. This is one of the big payoffs to being Merfolk. But seeing Tishana's Tidebinder, really flexible card here. Flashes in, shuts off activated abilities, and just continuously stifles it till it leaves the battlefield. You also have the combo of Deeproot Pilgrimage as well as Elven Chorus. So Deeproot's kind of interesting in the sense that whenever one or more non-token Merfolks you control become tapped, you create a blue Merfolk with hexproof. Now when you attack, it views it all as one. But with something like the Elven Chorus, each of your creatures can tap for mana. So on your end step, you can tap each of them individually. It sees it as instances of the tap, so you get multiples. If you have 4 creatures, you get 4 tokens, which is kind of cool. That there. This one does have the Cavern of Souls in here as a nice little land. Make them uncounterable. More Tishanas, more Sylvians. You got the Brazen Borers for bounce, Crawl Harpooners for the Wizards matchup, Aether's Gusts, Spell Pierce, and Shaper Sanctuary for the heavy removal decks. Moving on, we got Rakdos Madness from Sleeping Pill, 23 and 7. And this one is about throwing stuff in the graveyard and kind of triggering madness. So you have Artillery Enthusiast, and I'm not going to lie, I don't remember what this one does. Modify creatures you control a menace. That text doesn't matter. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, seek a card with mana value equal to its card mana. So kind of a tutor effect, which is nice. So the kind of core of this deck, you want to throw into your graveyard like Blood Artists. You can throw into stuff like Fiery Temper, cast for 1. And it's a Goblin Bombardment deck, so you can keep getting back the Bloodghast and kind of shoot them. So it's more of a bombardment deck, really, than a dedicated madness deck. We see the red god in here. Each trigger from the bombardment deals 4. Ox for some card advantage. Seasoned Pyromancer. Crucius helps you tutor as well. So you can always kind of find your key pieces. Copy of Blitterblossom here. So kind of a cool deck in that sense. Braids, more Bitter Blossoms for the grindier matchups. Feed the Swarms. Shield's Edict for like the Geist matchups, Sweepers, and Graveyard Hate all mixed in. From there, we go to Jund Mid, Strong and Fun, version 9. So this player here, not so. I'm pretty sure they played in the Arena Championship, but I kind of keep an eye on them. They play pretty much only Jund, and they have a lot of different variations. So I kind of keep an eye on what they're doing. So this is kind of your Jund Midrange, the rock deck. Jarcel's in here, Glissas, Scavenging Ooze for Graveyard Hate, Shieldrids, Cruciuses, Halflings. You have a lot of legendaries, so it lets you turn to any of these very powerful 3-drops. Questing Druid for some card advantage, gets bigger. Lonely End as some removal. Fatal Push, Assassin's Trophy, and an Edict main. Split of Thoughtseize and Inquisition. And then a Planeswalker package of Wrenn, Minskimbu, and 2 Lilianas. A lot of Planeswalkers as well with the Halfling that you can turn to in this deck. In terms of the mana base, we see Restless Cottage being played, and full Restless series. So opting for more of the dual lands, even though they come into play tapped. Sideboard, just a lot of situational cards, Noxious Grasp, so like various removal spells, anti-combo, graveyard, sack type things. Vraska's pretty flexible removal. You have Liliana the Last Hope to eat up small things, Klothys for Graveyard Hate. So just a lot of kind of powerful one-ofs that can be brought in to situationally help various matchups. From there, we go to Abzan Combo, double combo. Another one from Sleeping Pill, making the list, 19 and 5. So we have the Samwise combo, Samwise Gamgee, and then Cauldron Familiar. Now we can play it in a Lurrus Shell, given that we have Bartolome del Presidio. My Spanish isn't the best. But it's just another infinite sack outlet. So basically with the 3 cards in play, you can infinitely drain your opponent out by sacking the Cauldron Familiar, cutting it back with Samwise, and kind of going from there. The other combo we have in the deck is Amalia Benavides Aguirre. So the Amalia and the Wild Growth Walker, as long as you gain a point of life, and you can gain life through like Cauldron Familiar, you can gain it through like a blood token, you get to, how it works, you gain life, so you explore with Amalia. The Explorer triggers Wild Growth, which gains you 3 life, which triggers Amalia. You keep doing this until you get Amalia to reach 20 power, destroys every other creature, and you get a huge Amalia. So that way there, then you have like Samwise that could bring back combo pieces, Chord of Calling, Collected Company to find you combo pieces. So it's like oops all combo. Luris in here. Then you have Haywire Might, Artifact Enchantment Hate. We have Jade Light Splunker. Just multiple explore triggers that can be played. So if you want to play more of a fair game afterwards, works nicely with the Wild Growth Walker and is a nice mana sink. Notably, if you cast this from the graveyard with Luris, it's restricted to only being able to cast for X equals 1, because it can only be cast for 2 CMC. Soul Guide Lantern for Graveyard Hate, Safekeeping for Protection, just Disruption with Thoughtseize, and then you have like various removal, Graveyard Hate kind of pieces in here. From there, we go to Kethis Combo, Ozymandias, 42 and 19. So for those of you unfamiliar with Kethis Combo, kind of the core of the deck is you mill yourself. And then with Kethis, you can get cost reduction on legendaries. You get to exile 2 legendaries and then play cards from your graveyard. And then you have all the kind of channel lands that could be exiled as well, since they're legendary. And what you're trying to do is through looping Mox Ambers, gain a bunch of mana, gets doubled with the Kinnan, and then you can use Jace Perfected Mind, mill yourself multiple times until you have enough cards into your graveyard, and then you can cast Jace multiple times and then mill out your opponent. You have Shingat the Companion, Haywire Mites, just some removal spells, Hand Hate, Erasta for the Wizards matchup, Laziel for the heavy removal matchups, Yasharn for sack, and then Ursa's Ruinous Blast as a sweeper that doesn't hit any of your legendary permanents. We then go to Sky Blue Keppel, and this is Discover Combo. So Discover was the only deck that made day 2 7-0 for the qualifier weekend. It is the next closest was 6-2, which we'll get to that list. But the deck itself is a turn 3 combo potentially that can pretty much win the game on the spot. So how it works, you have Treasure Makers, Creative Outburst, Magma Opus. You do this on turn 2. On turn 3, you cast Geological Appraiser. And how the deck is structured, none of the cards in your deck other than Glasspool Mimic at 3 mana or Eldritch Evolution cost 3. So your Geological Appraiser either makes copies of more Geological Appraisers or hits Eldritch Evolution, which then you sack the Geological Appraiser to go get Trumpeting Carnosaur, which then lets you cascade, and either you hit more copies of Evolution, Glasspool Mimic, or Appraiser, or you Cantalansa Sunfavor, which is another Discover card. You kind of go through your deck. On the last copy of Eldritch Evolution, you're going to tutor for the Doomscar Tyrant, which gives your entire board haste for the turn. So you make a big board, give it haste, attack in. If the Tyrant or you have a lot of cards in hand, you can get Galta to put those cards into play as well. You also have Torrential Gearhulk, which can just cast any of these big spells from your graveyard, so you get some value there. And then Oliphant lets you find lands. Well, so it's kind of a 1 mana draw land, but doesn't actually screw up the curve. This one's also a domain build, so it's got Leyline Bindings kind of mixed into there, so you can find whatever relevant triome you need in that case, especially with the Oliphant. This one's interesting because you have Kalim for more of a fair game if needed. If they're kind of disturbing the combo, you can tap down more aggressive decks. Consign Oblivion, another way to bounce cards without... These kind of split cards work nice because they don't actually count as like 2 mana, even though you're often casting for 2 mana. Mirror Shell Crab is a counterspell. Connive Canuck as gain control of like aggressive thing or return something from the graveyard. And then Bazooka Bug as graveyard hate. From there, we go to Blue-White Control. So Megamax is playing this, but it's a Mistmin deck. And this is just your Blue-White Control, counter everything, kill everything. Snapcaster Kalim combo. Kalim's good against the Wizards deck. You have just a bunch of removal, Fragment Reality, March, change the equation as counter, get lost in here now. Reprieve, Archmage Charm, Purge, Supreme Verdict, Farewell, Sweepers, 3 Teferis, and then just a bunch of situational counters, sweepers, and you got like Shark Typhoons for the control matchups, more Get Lost, so get Rest in Peace, really whatever you need to kind of tailor the matchup. If you need to be more controlling, more interactive with the board, you're able to kind of shift that perspective. But the deck usually wins through either just Snapcaster Beatdown, eventually getting out a free Kalam, or you have Castle Ardenvale or Hall of the Storm Giants that can win. Technically, Teferi can keep tucking itself, but we tell Teferi to tuck off. From there, there's also a couple decks. So this is from Lazy Guga. They went to day 2 of the qualifier weekend. They went 7-0. They had a high mythic finish. This is Black-White Humans, notably non-Lurrus. So we got Cavern of Souls in the format. And this version here is the Inquisitor Captain. So you can hit like Esper Sentinel draws you cards, Giant Killers removal, Recruitment Officers card advantage. Peddler is kind of a Thoughtseize style effect. Lieutenant puts counters on your things. Thalia's attacks. Jirina is protection and graveyard hate. Ranger Captain of Eos is an interesting one here because it can find you your key like 1-drops, the situational ones as well. But also you can sacrifice and your opponent can't cast non-creatures. So again, say the Discover combo, you can sacrifice it. So say they cast a Carnosaur or a Geological Appraiser. You can sack it in response to the trigger, and then they can't cast their evolution, so you disrupt the combo for the turn. Skyclave Apparition is removal, the only non-human, Adeline as an attacker, Kudro as a lord, and Graveyard Hate, as well as some removal, and then a couple copies of Fatal Push. Mana base also has Castle Ardenvale, Give the Hot Frost Dragon, and a Gonjo. Sideboard, you have more Peddlers for removal, the Playcrafters for the Geist matchup, kind of an Edict effect. More removal in here, Vengeance versus like Wizards or Tribal decks. Wedding Announcements for heavy removal decks, and then Temporary Lockdown could be for like your affinity decks, anything that kind of goes wide. Even though you have some small drops, it could be situationally good to hit stuff like Goblin Bombardment, stuff of that nature. Then we go to the only other deck that got to at least 6 wins. This is from Epic Gerardo for qualifier weekend. This was day 2, so they were 1 win away from getting the 7 wins, but for points, they should still qualify for the next Arena Championship. And this is Azorius Dimir Ninjas. So I know Gerardo from Twitter. They play a lot of this deck, both in best of 1 and best of 3. It is a Lurrus Companion Ninjas deck, so you are using the Changelings in here, as well as like Thopters to work with Retrofitter Foundry, but the Changelings also count as ninjas. And it's the best way to kind of describe this combo. You reduce the activated abilities in ninjutsus. You have 2,000 face shadows. For as many times you have blue mana, you can loop them in combat, making copies of Silver Fur. That makes just a very large board. There's a video I have on my playlist for Historic of the Ninja deck. The first game I play, I do the combo. It's much easier to show than to explain, so check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, it's just like Disruption and stuff like that, some Spell Pierces. Basically, Bowmaster's been replaced with Edict in the deck. Your sideboard is more removal, counters and Bind Secrecy, Hand Hate, Anti-Wizards Hate, Combo Hate, and like big mana hate. And then lastly, so this is Mistman. If you're looking to like get good at Historic, Mistman's like the stream I watch the most for Historic content. Currently, I was watching this right before I recorded this. Number 5 Mythic doing the last little push. This month he did it with Azorius Affinity deck. So we've seen like these decks with like a Genius Smith, Ornithopter, like the Retrofitter Foundry. This version's a little bit bigger, non-Lurrus, so not as aggressive, a little bit more controlling. The Emery can be looped, so you got Metallic Rebukes, Thought Monitor in here for card advantage, Portable Holes, the Dusk Rose Reliquary as a removal spell, a Kal Pakal for card advantage in here, and then you're just kind of making tokens, kind of going in from there. Your sideboard just has more removal, counter spells, and then size for the grindier matchups. He actually does a sideboard guide, so if you're interested. But Mistmin, M-I-S-T-M-I-N on Twitch is kind of my go-to. You can click the button here and the dragon flies. But kind of the go-to for what I watch Historic content. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you think, what you've been playing, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.